Madam Vice Chair, when you say that the President of the United States has been bribed.
I said potential.
That's pretty strong. When you say that the Director of the Office of Management and Budget is corrupt, that's pretty strong. And I think if you're going to say someone has been bribed or someone is corrupt, you ought to be specific. And I notice you haven't been.
Okay, this one gets intense fast. I'm telling you right now, what you're about to see is one of the most electrifying moments to hit the Appropriations Committee in a long time. The tension is so thick, you could slice it with a gavel. We've got Senator Kennedy pressing hard, leaning straight into Sen. Murray's statements about the Trump administration, and the atmosphere goes from calm to volcanic in seconds. This isn't a polite exchange. This is a full-on collision of confidence, conviction, and political muscle. Every line feels like it could change the temperature of the whole room. Every eyebrow raise, every pause. You can feel the weight of it. If you thought committee hearings were boring, think again. This one crackles. Before we dive in, if you love political showdowns, high-stakes oversight, and moments where the air practically vibrates, make sure you slam that like button. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another breakdown of the biggest clashes happening in Washington. All right, let's roll the clip.
I think that President Trump's decision to accept this foreign plane is really an outrageous bribe. Under no circumstances should our taxpayers be on the hook for this massive cost to modify and use a foreign plane as Air Force One. The funding that Congress appropriates in this bill should take care of our service members and provide them with cutting-edge capabilities, not spent unnecessarily to retrofit a royal plane. This is massively wasteful, and actually the next generation Air Force One is already in the pipeline. And I also, by the way, think it is a huge security vulnerability on this plane. This amendment that the Senator's office offers would prevent the Department of Defense from wasting any more precious taxpayer resources on a truly corrupt and, I believe, wasteful endeavor. So I hope my colleagues vote yes.
But I've sat here this morning, and I appreciate the bipartisan words. But with all due respect, Madam Vice Chair, when you say that the President of the United States has been bribed,
I said potential.
that's pretty strong. When you say that the Director of the Office of Management and Budget is corrupt, that's pretty strong. And I think if you're going to say someone has been bribed or someone is corrupt, you ought to be specific. And I notice you haven't been. And I don't think this is, I've listened to a lot of pretty words about bipartisanship, but then we get personal. I don't think it's productive. It's up to you. This is America. You can say and believe what you want. But if you're going to say somebody's been bribed, you need to say specifically by whom, for what. If you say Russ Vote is corrupt, I want to know what that means, with all due respect.
That was a full-throttle committee blast. Absolutely no hesitation, no backing down, just two senators dropping point after point with the intensity of a legal thriller. Kennedy came in with sharp, precise questioning, focused, deliberate, and unflinching. Murray fired right back, confident, steady, and unwilling to let a single point slide. That wasn't an exchange. That was a collision course. This is the side of Congress most people never see. The pressure, the stakes, the demand to defend every word. No matter who you usually agree with, moments like this show exactly why these hearings matter. Because this is where claims get pushed, answers get tested, and the truth gets shaped in real time. If you want more explosive breakdowns like this, share this video. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's keep unpacking the biggest, boldest moments happening behind those committee microphones.
Tremendous amount of respect for the ranking member, but I think the narrative that you're drawing is just not factual, sir. That has not been said. The president has never came out and said he's putting this in the library. He said it in a joke one time, but the truth is that because you've been in the briefing, I've been in the briefing, they actually talked about using this particular plane for the vice president in the next presidential election, or the next president that sets President 40, whoever the 48th president of the United States is. They're talking about using the current one that has been in the air for over 35 years to possibly be retired and go in the presidential library. You and I sat in that same conversation, that same briefing. And so the narrative that you're drawing is just not factual. And then the plane itself, for those that don't know, but those that do know, because there's a few of us that was in the briefing that was on the armed services, this plane was offered during the President Biden's administration. They actually started negotiating this in August. And I was in Qatar when the Prime Minister originally talked to me about it. I came back and actually talked to our committee about it at the time, because there was an issue on how they could actually do it, if it could be a gift or could be a transfer, or if the Department of Defense could take it or it could go straight to the executive branch. That conversation happened. And so the narrative that you guys are drawing just isn't accurate. And I wish, if you guys are going to have concerns, that you actually speak from it on an actual perspective, not a political point. Now, if we want to talk about dollars and what it's going to take to retrofit it, fine. We can do that. But the current Air Force 2 is also completely outdated, and the current Air Force 1 is completely outdated. So what are we supposed to do? Keep flying old airplanes? I just want to know what the solution is here.
The fact is that this aircraft has been thoroughly considered for donations to the President's Library. We all know that. And this is not something that's going to go in the Air Force and just be another Air Force aircraft. In fact, it's ABC reporter, Attorney General Pam Bondi's and Trump's top White House lawyer, David Warrington, concluded it would be legally permissible for the donation of the aircraft to be conditioned on transferring its ownership to Trump's presidential library before the end of his term, according to sources familiar with their determination. So the contemplation is very clear, and it's been documented. This is going to be transformed with Air Force money and then given to the library. I don't think that's an appropriate use of Air Force money. Thank you.
Since it was announced in May, I think many of us on this committee have been trying to determine the exact cost of retrofitting the Qatari royal family's gift of a Boeing 747 jumbo jet to President Trump. In addition to the security and ethical concerns with accepting a foreign gift of this nature, there are real issues around the cost of this retrofit that have not been explained, as well as whether once that is, how long it will take, and once that's done, whether in fact it will be as secure as Air Force One, which, as we know, is currently being completed by Boeing. It's been reported that the jet could cost up to $1 billion for necessary security controls, but we've not been able to get an accurate estimate from the Air Force, and they've continued to downplay the full cost. When I asked this of the Secretary of Defense at the hearing, he told us that that number was classified. But finally, during the Air Force Secretary's testimony to the Defense Subcommittee this year on the Air Force budget, he admitted for the first time that the funds to upgrade the Qatari plane were reprogrammed from the nuclear modernization budget, specifically from the Sentinel program. Now, it's been reported that this transfer was done through reprogramming authority that was granted to the Department of Defense in the continuing resolution, and that it could be at least $900 million. I understand, like others on the committee, that the Sentinel program is over budget, but I think it weakens our credibility to take funding from nuclear modernization and move it into a project that there are still serious unanswered concerns about how much money it's going to take, and whether it would, in the end, give us a plane that is going to be as secure as Air Force One. So that's why this amendment, I hope the members of this committee will consider it carefully, and I intend to vote for it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I want to thank Senator Shaheen for offering this valuable amendment. to prevent the department from using nearly $1 billion in taxpayer funds to retrofit the Qatari Royal plane to serve as a temporary Air Force One. As she mentioned, it raises both security and ethical questions. And the White House took advantage of the lax standards of the FY25 continuing resolution to push through a vanity project. Funds for the department should be used for our nation's substantive defense, not a flashy object that boosts the president's ego. I urge my colleagues to vote yes.
Because it will cost at least $1 billion, at least $1 billion. And it probably will take 1 or 2 years to complete this aircraft. And we all know where this is headed, to the president's library. A fully functional aircraft, which is going to be delivered to the president's library, which I presume he will use with the permission of the library, although the library will pay for it. This is completely, I think, unacceptable. It's never been done before by any president. To stop it now, I think, makes sense. Senator Murphy's suggestion, I think, is that at least it spends its useful life in the Department of the Air Force where it should. This is being transferred to the Air Force, but as soon as the president leaves office, a functionally useful aircraft is going to accompany him. The only precedent I think we have here is the aircraft at the Ronald Reagan Library in California, and that was completely stripped of its engines and everything else, so it could be a model, a display. That's not the intent, I think, of the president right now. He wants a free plane when he leaves. So I would very strongly urge that this amendment be passed, and if not, Senator Murphy's amendment be passed. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Senator McConnell.